Okay. All right, this is Dr. Eric Greenberg, and this is a special episode of my podcast. And I have with me today one of my students at Loyola Marymount. He is in my World Religions in Los Angeles class, but he is born in Myanmar, living in Myanmar. He is a Myanmar national, and I want to make sure that our viewers know what's going on in Myanmar, because I know that Americans sometimes are just oblivious of what goes on outside of the United States. And I've always said that anything that goes on in the world, we all should know about, because it always affects everybody. Just because it's not directly next door to you doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you. We're all affected by things going on. So my student, and we're going to just give his first and middle name to protect his safety, because there are some really horrifying things going on in his country, and we want to protect his safety. But his name is Aung Khant, and let me know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I want to be respectful of that.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, and so he's and so let's let's just jump right in. I think that's enough introduction for the viewers. But please remind me what year you are in school.
Oh yeah, I'm a sophomore.
Okay,
Sophomore, yeah.
sophomore. And what's your major?
I'm majoring currently in business and leadership.
Okay, business and leadership. All right. And so just to let the viewer know, we've decided to keep Aung off camera for his safety, because he is living in a dictatorship right now and we want to preserve his safety. But we also decided not to have the black screen with the nameplate instead, because it might kind of give the viewers just a sense of unreality, and we want to give you a sense of reality, that this is a real live human being who is dealing with some really horrible things going on. There's his hand, so you know he's a person, and we're going to hear his voice. So, but I want to thank him for taking the time to talk with me about this and trusting me to try to get the message out. As he has said to me a number of times in the last couple of weeks, this is information that people in the world need to know about. So we're going to take a little time and talk about what's going on, and we'll describe things that we're not going to presume that the average viewer knows exactly what's going on. We're going to try to deal with things on a very basic level and describe to the general viewer what's going on in Myanmar right now. So Aung, talk to me a little bit about the background of the military junta, and and why this is so important, what's been going on recently. You just feel free to talk to your heart's content, and I'll just ask some questions from time to time.
Yeah. So the military control of the government is not really something new for our Burmese people. We have been under a military regime since 1962,
Mm,
when a civil war broke out between ethnic groups, and which is still our country is still currently in that civil war, where it is known as the longest civil war in the history. So ever
mm,
since then, we have been under a military regime. And but then in 1988, there was uh, what is known as the 888, and which was done on August the 8th of 1988 revolution, where
mm,
hundreds and thousands of people went on the streets and took a strike against the government. And this force, this force, uh, who was the commander in chief then, General Ne Win, to step down. And this was also in 1988. This also created the birth of Aung San Suu Kyi and her political party of NOD. And so in 1990, the military dictatorship agreed to hold democratic elections. And in 1990, NOD and Aung San Suu Kyi won by a landslide. But then the military cried foul and arrested her.
mm,
And uh, Junta Tan Shui was in power took power since then, since 2010. Yeah, and in 2007 there was another revolution called the Saffron Revolution, where Buddhist monks led the revolution against the junta as prices rose and our living standards just got worse. Only then, through 2007's protests and international sanctions and pressure, they decided to finally hold they decided to build the constitution in 2008 and hold another elections in 2010, where you could say it was the birth of our quasi Burmese democracy.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then since 1990, Aung San Suu Kyi was arrested, but only in 2011 she was released. So she and her NLD party once again ran the election in 2015, but 2015, and they won by a landslide. And this time the military didn't cry foul. And in 2020, here we have our another election where NLD won by 82% of the votes. But as you have seen, the military has said this is election fraud and has illegitimate, unillegitimately has taken coup over the country.
Right.
So what is important to notice also that these in 1988 and 2007, the revolutions were brutal and bloody,
Mm.
where where in 1980, thousands of people and mostly students were killed. Tens were beheaded in public so that people wouldn't come out and protest the next day. In 2007, where Myanmar is known to be a 90% Buddhist country, where Buddhism uh, basically prevails above everything, soldiers opened fire on Buddhist monks, which totally shifted totally, how to say, it was one of the darkest days. And now in 2021, yesterday, the military has opened fire in Mandalay using snipers and rifles, killing at least two and wounding at least 2 dozen. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah. So
so
so the violence has, I mean, full scale violence has returned. People have been killed. As you had said, they've crossed a line.
yes,
It's no
they have,
longer just maybe some beatings and maybe some arrests. We're talking about people who've been killed in cold blood at this point.
yes.
Yeah.
So what is really important to notice though is that this revolution, what is really different is that the internet is here,
Hmm.
social media is here. That is really different from what has happened in 1988 and 2007, where we were limited to no access at all. So, like, in this revolution, uh, like this kind of reaction of when 2 or 3 people dying would have never happened in previous revolutions. So we are hoping through the internet and through the footages, there will be a change from the brutalness of the government.
Right. So you're saying that in previous revolutions, um, people would not have had as much of a reaction to a few people being killed. You're saying because it wasn't broadcast on the internet, if I understood you.
Yes,
Yeah.
because yeah, exactly my
And
point.
because there were, as I understood you, there were more people killed in the previous revolutions. And forgive me, I haven't memorized all the dates yet, but the one where people were beheaded, was that 1988, if I heard you?
Yes, 1988.
Yeah. So approximately how many people were killed at that time and beheadings and things?
Uh, like due to very inaccurate data, I would say the most accurate data would be from my parents who actually lived through, experienced it.
Hmm.
But they would say at least 3,000 people were
Wow.
shot down
That's a
altogether.
lot of people. That's a lot of
Yes.
people. So
So
yeah. So yeah.
yeah. So in 1988, um, to 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 make their military dictatorship and the coup legitimate, what they did was these tactics of creating and inciting riot and panic in the um, in the city. So what they did in 1988 was release tens of thousands of prisoners, and then these prisoners would open and loot the shops, the markets, intentionally to create violence and to cause chaos. So only then, when the whole city and the whole country was in chaos, and the military made themselves look like as if they were the only one who can keep the peace,
Right.
and that legitimized their power then. And the crazy thing is, they are trying that again in 2021. They have once again released over 23,000 inmates just last week. And now there has been footages of these inmates uh, using Molotovs, having knives, having batons, and they're just being randomly dropped off into city townships by the police. So now, ever since the last 2 weeks or a week and a half, every neighborhood has set up a neighborhood watch. Everyone has become basically vigilantes looking out for these inmates. And also, it is crazy to believe this, but I say the police and the military, they don't work for the people. They work for one family and their friends. They work for the Junta Min Aung Hlaing and his family. That is what is really important to know. These cops and these military are not the people's military. They are not protecting the people. They only follow orders. So they are basically working for a group of family and their friends. So,
and what is the name once again? Min Aung
Hlaing. So HLA.
HLA.
ING. I'll type it out in the chat.
That'd be great. Yeah. Okay. Hlaing?
Yeah.
Hlaing. Okay. And that's the name of the general who is essentially that they're working for?
Yeah. The commander in chief. The one who orchestrated the coup. So what we believe what started was they started the police and the military started doing night arrests. So ever since a week of the coup and protests, they announced Article 144, which is the martial law. We are not supposed to go out between 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. and we are not allowed to group up with more than people of 5. So yeah, so this basically means like protests are illegal, basically. But then ever since the martial law, these people are so low life that only after announcing those laws, they started arresting the protesters and they started arresting the government workers who were on strike at night. So the defense mechanism that every township had was when they were creeping in or when they see some police cars, everyone would bang their pots and pans to scare them away. But then ever since like the third night guards had to be put in place, and it is crazy where I'm living in a country where the people are arresting the police for trying to like illegitimately arbitrarily detaining a person. So over 2 weeks now, we have had sleepless nights, and combined with the 20,000 inmates being released, those type of things, we believe, the citizens believe, we are in kind of like a psychological warfare where they're trying to tire us out. And also, ever since yesterday night, we have gone into a week of curfew-style internet shutdown, where our internet has been cut off from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. every night. And so, think about all the human rights they have actually violated. Even for someone like an international student like me, my right to education has suddenly disappeared from this. These people are complete criminals, and they are inhumane. That's what is important to note. Oh, and ever since the protests started getting riled up, they also amended and abolished 3 privacy laws, which has allowed them to arrest anyone without a warrant, enter a home or search a private property without any permission, and to detain a person over 24 hours without a judge or a court's approval. So our basic human rights has basically also been lost, where now telecommunications also is also very we are very skeptical about it. So we have been using VPNs and encrypted applications to communicate with each other.
Hmm. Now, the other day you had mentioned to me, by the way, you were just on screen there for a second, so I just wanted to make sure you're a little careful about that. You had mentioned the Aung San Suu Kyi as the mother of our nation. You had mentioned, so I want to kind of highlight how popular and how much support she has. Could you talk
Yeah,
a little bit more about that?
yeah, totally. To be honest, she kind of had like this, not even like a mother complex, but like a god complex in Myanmar, because her father was General Aung San, like he was a charismatic nationalist leader who fought and gained independence for Myanmar from the British colony in 1948.
Hmm.
And so what happened was just before gaining independence, he was assassinated, which then led to the chain of events that which I said, the Civil War of 1962 and the political unrest that unfolded everything.
Hmm.
So her father is already this um how to say heroic figure, a martyr in our eyes. So and so when the military dictatorship took over, they treated Aung San Suu Kyi as if she was a daughter of nobody. She was exiled from the country where she had to where she married a British person, and once she came back for when she came back to Myanmar, she realized that how cruel and how brutal the junta was, and realized that if she ever left the country again, she would never be able to come back.
Hmm.
That was a totally sure thing. So what happened was, even during her husband's funeral, she couldn't leave the country to give a final visit,
Hmm.
just because she wanted to fight for her country.
Right.
And one of her two sons, the older one, still today resents her for leaving their father and leaving them, and not even taking care of them.
Hmm.
So these things. And like I said before, in 1990 she was put under house arrest until 2010. So for 20 years she was under house arrest. So this is not like 2 weeks quarantine during COVID or anything like that. She was under house arrest for 20 years.
Hmm.
And still after that, she is still hopeful. She is still fighting for our country. She is still fighting for Myanmar. So that's what makes her our mother. She is willing to give up anything. She's willing to fight for anything just to give our country a better future, a better and just a better hope.
Yeah, I want to make sure that people are aware of the tremendous amount of support that she has, or the very broad support, because obviously, as you said, the military regime is trying to paint a picture of election fraud, and that she did not have as much support as she actually has. Um, so if it's really that obvious that she's so well loved, I want to make sure that people are aware of that. That this is not something that election interference could have just put in place a candidate overnight that did not have very broad support of the people.
Yeah, this is not like this election was not like just a one-trick pony. She
Right.
has already won landslides in 1990, 2015, and 2020.
Hmm.
So it is not like she got lucky this time, or this is just a straight up abuse of power just because the military has weapons and the people of Myanmar doesn't. So
Hmm.
what it would be better to realize is that also us civilians have no firearms at all. It is not like how to say America, where we have no firearms, nothing. We have no anything that how to say that we can say is a gun. Only the military has the guns and the weapons. And we believe that is the only reason they can they are taking over the country, because they have no brains or no nothing, no smarts. Yeah.
Right. By the way, I'm going to share screen right now just for the viewers so that they can see a picture of Aung San Suu Kyi, just for visual reference. It'll give us a little bit more, just a little more diversity on the screen, so that we're not always looking at the empty screen. So I'm going to share screen here. Okay. So can you see my screen as well?
Yep.
Okay. So just for a moment, we'll just show this image of Aung San Suu Kyi. And remind me, what is the title that she holds? I know it's sort of a different title other than president. Was it state counselor? Is that correct?
Yes, state counselor. So she is
State
our
counselor.
de facto leader. So the constitution was actually written by the military government and junta. So there are many things that actually favor them and shows that the military and the government are actually two different entities, and that the military actually has all the power. So so the reason why Aung San Suu Kyi cannot be president is because of the xenophobic and very nationalistic rule that has been written in the constitution that says anyone who marries a foreigner cannot be a president.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
Those things were directly written. The constitution was made for the military, it is made by them for them. So in the constitution, what you should also know is that the military already hold 25% of the seats in the constitution without any votes, just by the law. Okay. And to pass a law or to pass a bill, you have to have 76% of the votes of the parliament. So you can see how it was written by them for them.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And so the military was always, you would say, above the civilian government. You could always say that. So this then also, how do you say, translates into the do we want to talk about this? The Rohingya atrocities, where
right. I wanted to ask about that. Thank you.
Yeah, it was completely done by the military, because they have this fear that if the ethnic minorities and the whole of Myanmar comes together, we can actually overthrow the government. So that deep fear has always made them oppress and bully the ethnic minorities. And yeah, these crimes, they're just done by these cruel people led by Senior General Min Aung Hlaing. And only now the people of Myanmar has also realized how we didn't stand up for our ethnic minorities when we needed them. Only now we realize, oh wow, what we're going through, other people of Myanmar, Burmese people, has gone through a lot worse. And so this also then comes back to Aung San Suu Kyi having to defend the military's action against these Rohingya, because as you can see right now, if she had not defended and if she had openly fought against the military, the coup would have happened then. Our small wings of democracy would have just been clipped off since then. It would have even reached to here. And so that is why she had a bigger picture in mind for all 50 million people of Myanmar. What she has been fighting for 50 years, she realized that she had to give up something. She had to give up the Western media's praise and hope for our people. But this has inadvertently led to the military still taking over, as she has lost the reputation and her untouchableness, I would say, from the past.
It's as if it would have happened sooner or later, and she just held it off for a period of time. And I wanted to make sure that our viewers really understand what had happened with the Rohingya. And is it appropriate to say Rohingya with a sort of a j sound?
Yeah, Rohingya.
Okay, because I didn't know that, so thank you for that. So um, I was aware of the situation of the Rohingya back about 2017 because, as you know, I do a lot of interfaith work, and one of my mentors and a close colleague of mine, Mohammed Khan, has been doing a lot of work to try to raise awareness about what has been going on with the Rohingya. So in 2017, he actually brought um, the former member of parliament of the Rakhine state, Shui Mong. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly,
Yeah.
but he brought Shui Mong to the United States, or I guess he was on a tour to try to raise awareness about things. But he brought him to our area in Los Angeles and helped him to give a number of presentations and speeches. And so he gave a presentation to a few of my classes, talking about what was going on with the Rohingya. As I understand it, he is now, I guess he's in exile at this point. I don't know the exact details, but he's no longer a member of a parliament. Um, but it was part of my purpose, my mission, to try to raise awareness about what was going on with the Rohingya, the ethnic cleansing, the genocide, the approximately 750,000 Rohingya who had been displaced and pushed to the border and even over the border into Bangladesh, many of whom were brutally beaten, women raped, villages burned, even some murders in the process. Um,
Yeah.
and so a lot of people were very critical of Aung San Suu Kyi. Even I myself, I had said a lot of things about why can't she speak out and why isn't she doing more, and how could this person who's a Nobel Prize winner, how could she be so silent about something so important? But I'm really glad to hear your point of view, because it gives us a little bit more of a three-dimensional picture. It's not merely a person who has sold out, as they say. It's not merely a person who didn't care. There's a bigger picture involved.
Yes.
And so I'm glad to learn about this. And I have to humbly say, maybe I was wrong in terms of my criticisms of her, but it's a process of learning, and we're trying to learn the truth at this point. So thank you for bringing up the issue of the Rohingya and the fact that the Burmese people are now seeing how important this is. That one ethnic minority being oppressed, it leads to everyone being oppressed.
Yes. Like
Yeah.
the crazy thing right now is how like so the military built itself upon by saying they are the only institution that can keep Myanmar together or like have a peaceful Myanmar. What they have done is they have proven that inadvertently and not in the way they liked. They have actually proven, because I have never seen my country and Myanmar be this united and be this
Mm.
civilized and just like I've never seen this much unity in my people. Where previously the marginalized people that I've seen many LGBTQ community people be extremely like how to say badly treated, but now everyone is fighting for the same cause, and I've never seen this much unity and uh this much togetherness. Where this is certainly a revolution, and we don't know what the future for Myanmar holds after this.
Right. The situation you describe regarding the government creating terrible problems that only they can fix, like starting riots or releasing thousands of violent criminals to cause trouble, so that the government will then round them up and say, see what we do, see how bad we can make it, and we're the only ones who can control it. It reminds me of a situation that we used to call protection. I don't know if you're familiar with this idea, but where the mafia or organized crime in the United States, where they would come into a neighborhood and they would
Mhm.
bully the local business owners, the local residents, and they would say, well, you got to pay us money to protect you. Well, what are we protecting? What are you protecting us from? Well, things happen. Bad things can happen. Well, it actually turns out they're protecting you from themselves. They're the ones who
Mhm.
are going to come in and beat people up and break store windows and rob you and that sort of thing. So you're paying them. It's extortion money is what it is,
Mm.
but they call it
Yes.
paying protection money. And that it seems like that's what the government is doing.
Yes.
They're acting like a mafia,
Yes.
requiring protection money so that they
Yes.
won't go and beat you up.
exactly. Now we like a phrase we're starting to say is we don't even call them the military or government, and we call them terrorists. They are
Mm,
terrorists. They are not a legitimate government or anything.
mm. Yeah.
Um,
N- Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the. So primarily, it's a Theravada Buddhist nation,
yes.
and I know there were some Theravada Buddhist monks who, over the last several years, were I guess we would say were promoting a certain level of
Yep.
nationalism and violence against the ethnic minorities, particularly the Rohingya. What do you hear coming from them today? Where do they stand in this?
Oh, so these it is very saddening and tough when like the military has even corrupted the the religion and the monks,
Mm,
where I would say I don't even view them as monks anymore, or like where I say disrespecting someone wearing a saffron robe is very big in our culture. But that has also shifted where like this monk called Wiratu, he was even on the Times magazine. Yeah,
yeah,
like
Ashin Wiratu.
yeah, we wouldn't even want to say as a shin. That is like very
Oh,
honorific. So
oh, I see.
because yeah,
So,
very he completely defaced Buddhism, and now, but the crazy thing is they are not working with Buddhism. They're basically pro-military,
mm,
because what the military has basically like put themselves in the position and like preaching upon is that they're nationalists. They're trying to
mm,
keep this a Buddhist country. We need to preserve our Buddhism. We cannot let the Muslims in. We cannot let we cannot let the other religions take over. That is what their stance is.
mm.
So these monks becomes the face of the Buddhist side, where oh yeah, Buddhism needs to prevail. Buddhism, Myanmar needs to be a Buddhist country. So even today, I can show you. Can I share some? Can I share my screen?
Yes, if it should let you. If not, I will change it so that you can.
Yes. I'm currently trying to right now find what just happened the day before yesterday, where a group of monks started to hit people on the road and people's cars.
Wow.
So this is also, we would say, a tactic by the government to start um, religious, how do you say, disagreements.
Yeah.
You see how peaceful monks are suddenly wielding weapons, wielding batons to hit a car.
Wow.
So these are the ways they try to create a lot of like psychological warfare against the religion, against people, each other. So yeah, I can show a lot of I can show also another clip here where so actually it's better if we talk. So the new thing about this revolution is also what is known as the civil disobedience movement. We
Hmm.
have never done this before. And from the experiences of 1988 and 2007, the people realized that they have the weapons. We cannot fight them head on. When there's bloodshed, it is only us we lose. We lose both the battle and the war. So this time, what is happening is that government workers are going on strike. Civil disobedience movement, where not like from what we have heard, at least 75% of the government workers have stopped working. So paralyzing the whole system and leaving the government to actually govern no one. So to combat that, what they have done is those nightly arrests, and now they have started straight up assaulting the civil disobedience movement protesters by raiding their homes and just attacking their houses. And here you can see this is at a railway station in Mandalay, where for no reason against peaceful protesters, not even peaceful, peaceful people who are just living at their homes, they started firing shots. So as you can see, these are the men in uniform. These are the
Hmm.
people who is supposedly have to protect us.
And are they throwing grenades? I see one or two people throwing objects.
Yeah. These are, I would say, rocks. Some are firing
Rocks.
shots, and we have also heard tear gas.
Okay. Yeah, I saw someone using a slingshot to fire something. I
Yeah.
guess that's maybe rocks.
Yes. And
Okay.
yeah, I can keep showing where you see. So this is
Oh yeah.
the weapons they are threatening and using against
Yeah.
peaceful protesters. So
Right.
this in yesterday where the brutal killings happened, where these types of assault rifles are showing up at the protest.
Yeah.
And
And
now,
I know
yeah,
what that is because I have some experience with firearms in my history. That's a sniper rifle. That's the kind of thing you use long distance against people. That's
yeah.
yeah, that's a dangerous weapon. Wow.
So
And then and
you see, yeah, you see the brutality of our country, where, how do you say, in Hong Kong they protest for 9 months, and their casualty was 2.
hmm,
We are only in the second or third week, and we already have 3 people shot from the military.
right,
So you see how things can escalate if there's no international intervention or international pressure. That is
right.
what the people of Myanmar is currently hoping for, because we don't have any weapons. We cannot fight them. So the only way we can is through international sanctions and pressure.
Right. Yeah. And forgive me, I'm going to, from time to time, when you're showing photos or video, I'm going to describe them a little bit just because I'm probably going to put this, our discussion on an audio version on my podcast, as well as having a video version on my YouTube channel. I want to make sure this is out there in every possible format so as many people can see or hear it as possible. So I may take an extra second or so to describe what you're showing me. Yeah, so
So
so Aung is showing me all sorts of photographs from a Twitter feed right now that's just examples of the violence. Do you want to describe what we're seeing here? I mean, I'm seeing thousands and thousands of people in this photo.
so these are the scenes from Yangon, the biggest city, so
Mhm.
where I'm currently living. So the crazy thing is, the Yangon is probably the most developed, the most modern city. They haven't really incited any violence to the protesters here of any kind, because people here are protesting everywhere. So this is only one part of the protest. Now a lot of protests are also happening at embassies, where I myself on most days are usually chanting and protesting in front of the US embassy,
Mm,
the American embassy. So we believe only they can put more pressure, and also for my own safety, like my belief is that even if we get harmed in front of the American embassy, that will be worth it. That will definitely be on the news. So
right.
that is the different ways of thinking we have been protesting. So you see
Yeah.
here how they how they claim election fraud, but then we show up like this as a
Yeah.
response. This
What
was
I'm seeing is maybe tens of thousands of people in this square. Yeah.
hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is
If there were election fraud, it might be a couple of people. It would be negligible.
yeah. So we have tried a lot of creative things throughout the week, where, so this is um car breakdown day, car breakdown movement day. So where people in the whole city acted as if all our cars broke down. So everyone just parked their cars. People had their hoods up. Even bicycles pretended their bicycles did not work. People had their hoods up, as you can see here. So as you can see, we're really, it's sad to say, but we're hopeless and desperate that we, like, honestly to God, we have no weapons. So the only thing we can use is our brain and our teamwork and our ingenuity to fight against this brutal regime. So we have been trying a lot of creative things so that we also get media attention, where now
Mm.
posters are really they're meant to catch the eye. People have
Mhm.
started to make it color coordinated like this, so then it is photogenic. things like that.
This is
Like,
brilliant.
yeah, it has been really, really crazy.
Yeah.
So they haven't really used brutal tactics in Yangon, but this is in Mandalay once again. And this was the past week. This is not before yesterday's killing, but this was when they used rubber bullets. And yeah.
Yeah. I see a sniper rifle right there. That's serious stuff. That's
Yeah.
really serious stuff. They've got a long range scope on that. He's got a heavy barrel. That's designed to take down people from a very long distance. That's not about crowd control. That's not about defense.
So
Yeah.
another crazy thing I need to talk about is, so the yesterday, oh, I cannot find the picture. So yesterday military troops that shot in Mandalay. So does this have a badge? Okay, this one doesn't, but there were photos of the, how do you say, I'm not sure if it's district or infirmary, like 77 or 66, like they're battalions, right? Specific
Yeah,
battalion.
it could be battalions. Their unit, we would say, just their particular unit.
So not particularly this one, but there have been a lot of photos circulating that yesterday the units that were deployed at Mandalay were the ones responsible for the Indian massacre, the Rohingya massacre. So it is as if the junta has basically said they're going to war against us now. Because those type of people, those brutal people are being deployed in the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And here, this is the photo of the day from yesterday, where you can see how Burmese people, we really have no resources. We're really poor. It is only our heart and our mind that is valuable and what we have. You can see how a person was shot. So, and the crazy thing yesterday was the military, they even shot ambulances and they shot at, so they have actually committed basically war crimes. We're actually saying they're even worse than ISIS, where they don't even shoot the ambulance. But our government, the people who are supposed to protect us, they're shooting the ambulance. So the ambulance couldn't come in. People grabbed the barrel and tried to wheel away a person who was shot and wounded. You can see like how raw like we are, how we are just surviving. We are a third world nation, but we go through this. We're having to go through this.
Now, I'm just I wanted to ask you, can you tell me some of the hashtags that we could use if we are trying to spread this? What are some of the hashtags?
Right now, the biggest and the most trending hashtag would be hashtag what's happening in Myanmar.
Okay.
And hashtag save Myanmar. Those two really would allow you to view information on Twitter.
Okay. I'm just writing that down for myself here. Yeah, very, very interesting.
You can describe this video. So you can see how like it's, how to say, it is hard to comprehend our country, because right now it is literally like lawless and like, how to say, there is no one to protect us. It is a lawless country right now. You see how men in uniform are just
And
so
what are we seeing in this video here? Because it's a little bit choppy, a little bit.
Is this better? They're trying to arrest a pro-democracy protester.
Okay.
See how? Okay, this is a little green. Wait, yeah. Yeah, it has only been 3 weeks, and a lot of our like people have died. A lot of our rights has been violated. People are filled with anxiety, anger, sadness, and what we're really wondering is these words, we condemn, we urge, we ask. These words from UN, those are just words. This time the question we want to ask is, how many more people have to die? How many more rights has to be violated before real action can be done? For something actually that can affect us can be done. That is our main question right now, where we really don't want to lose hope from that.
Yeah. Do you think that that it would be helpful to have some kind of a UN peacekeeping force, or do you think that you can solve this situation without it?
Ooh. Those like even in even in my own family, we have been having arguments and debates about whether the U.S. military or like the UN peacekeepers would actually do any benefit. Where we're scared, where it might actually turn Myanmar into a blown up civil war country.
Right.
So we actually don't know what we even want, but so the problem is we believe, and not we believe, we know that China is kind of backing this, or usually has always backed the military government. That is how they have sustained and how they have lived through isolation before. So this time it is also really important on China's stance, because Myanmar is very important for their Belt and Road Initiative, where we're the ones connecting China and India. So
Mm.
you see, Myanmar is actually a very important country where we're in the middle of two mega like super nations, India and China. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of potential to be made. So what we're waiting for is, I believe they have a UN Security Council meeting coming very soon. Only then we are hoping that Beijing will realize democracy is important for their Belt and Road initiative to work, for them to pass through here. So that is the only thing we can hope right now, because in previous times they have vetoed strong use of words against the military government.
Mm.
Yeah,
Interesting. Belt and Road was what you said?
yeah, their Belt and Road initiative.
Okay, Belt and Road Initiative. Interesting.
So
Yeah, because I'm sorry. I always wondered what are some of the, I don't know, the exports or natural resources or things that Myanmar has that makes it important to other nations. Like what could we use to hold out against um, against these other nations who are supporting the regime? What can we say? Hey, you don't have access to this if you don't have a stable Myanmar.
yeah,
So. You,
but so the countries like China they have exploited through the military regime instead. So before, because 90% of the ruby and jade of the world comes from Myanmar.
really?
Yes.
Oh.
So you see those Burmese jades and rubies, though those are, so yeah, those comes from Myanmar. Teak, teak is very big in Myanmar, but what has happened that all these big industries, they have all been given to one or two persons, and like yeah, so the resources of the people were exploited for over 60 years. That is what we're
Mm.
angry about, what we're fighting for. So then we finally
Mm.
have a fair and equal chance of being like the same citizens. And
Right.
yeah. And we also
So the
have
nation.
a big river called Ayawadi, where it is capable to produce a lot of electric for even for neighboring countries.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And did you say the Iowadi?
yeah, Ayawadi.
Ayawadi. Okay. I think I've heard of it. Yeah, I'm just wondering is if there were an opportunity for foreign investors to invest in Myanmar's infrastructure or businesses, is that something that would help?
Oh
Or would
yeah.
we potentially be investing in the wrong people? Would we be investing in the government run
Oh
businesses?
yeah. So I mean, after this revolution, like foreign investments, like how do you say, um, before even in this past quasi democracy 10 years, a lot of foreign investment came in. We finally had, we finally had Burger King, we finally had KFC, the usual showing that, oh, we're opening to the world.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but then the thing was that only the rich was getting richer because
Right.
the military still kind of had power to do a lot of these things. So, but then after this revolution, at least one thing has changed. Now everyone is disgusted at the military families. Everyone is boycotting military products. So, like one of the products that is owned by the military is called Myanmar beer. They
Mm.
actually like own 70% of the market share. But now that 70% has completely been boycotted. That has never, these things have never been done before. Like where people before only looked at, oh man, come on, it's cheaper. Oh, it's tastier. I have to get it. But now the criteria is it owned by military or not? So, so we don't know. That is what we mean. We don't know what the future holds for Myanmar anymore. It is
Right.
suddenly so bright. Like now, foreign investments that can come in into free and competitive market like instead of instead of the general's friend, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
it is very, if we win this, it is, woo, we are very like it will be something special because we also believe Southeast Asia hasn't had a true democracy country yet.
Mm-hmm.
Where so we are saying we have to win this. If we lose this too, we are back to being slaves of the
Mm.
country. So this is that is why it is very important. Like even people who used to be crazy like how do you say into like business, always about how to find money. People have closed shops to support this movement. Like
Mm.
everyone is coming together. What we need is international attention. But I would also have to say, like this time though, a lot international attention has been tremendous, and I've been seeing a lot of articles actually being reported. And now a lot of Western countries, America, Canada, UK, New Zealand has taken swift actions where America has frozen assets, made travel bans against these generals.
Mm. That's
But
good.
yes, that is good, but like they don't care about America.
Right.
They- that's why we need more international pressure on the ASEAN countries, the Asian countries where their assets and where the travel bans will actually um, be effective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. You know, one thing that I think it might be helpful to do, um, if well, I think it's important for U.S. citizens and uh, many of the people who might be viewing this to write letters or to make phone calls to their representatives, their congresspeople, their senators, the governors, even the president himself. But I think I would want to have some guidance as to what we need to ask for. Obviously, we can ask for, well, please pay attention to what's going on in Myanmar. Please don't support the military junta. But beyond that, what can be done? And so I think we need to come up with a petition or a letter that is very specific as to what should or should not be done by the U.S. government, what will help the situation and what would not help the situation. And maybe that's something that you and I could talk about separately,
Yeah.
in terms of just so that if I were to send around a petition to people to share with their congressmen and to share with their senators, that it would be specific as to specifically what they should be supporting or not supporting, what the U.S. government actually has to do in order to help Myanmar, rather than just, as you said, urging, condemning, and asking. You know, that only goes so far, to use words, to urge, to condemn, to ask.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that I did want to point out to the viewers, because I tend to do a lot of interfaith work. Most of what I do has to do with religion, religious tolerance, religious freedom, religious liberty. This is a situation where religion is not the cause of this. Religion is not the cause of the violence or the oppression, but religion is being used as a tool. From what you've told me, we have a corrupt government that has corrupted the ranks of many of the Buddhist monks and turned them into essentially puppets of the military. And I've studied Buddhism. I've been studying Buddhism for years as part of my own academic programs. And Buddhism is not supposed to be that way. Buddhism is not supposed to be nationalist. Buddhism is not supposed to be violent or
So
pro-military. Buddhism is supposed to be essentially, at its core, a pacifist religion. And so we're seeing very strange forms of Buddhism expressed in these extremists that you've talked about, like Wiratu and some of the other people that I've read about who were trying to promote the kinds of genocide that we've seen since at least since 2017.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like
yeah.
Wiratu was actually put in jail by the previous government, but then
Uh,
he was released by the 20,000 instantly. The 20,000 release, he was already part of it. Yeah.
the
So
20,000.
inmates were released just
Oh, I
last.
see. I see. He was one of them who was released.
Oh yeah, of course. All
Interesting.
of his friends, all of their friends were released.
Hmm.
We live, that is type of the country we live, where we have to like, we have seen our parents like bear through these injustices and just having to live by unfairness and unequalness. That's why we believe we have to win this. It is, we're done with having to live like that. We're done with having to bow down to these like essentially stupid, but they have weapons people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, this shouldn't happen anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
So
kind of I guess you'd say a plutocracy. It's a sort of an aristocracy. Um, but so I'm
yeah.
curious, who are some of the leaders, excuse me, the leaders of the protest movement, of course, other than Aung San Suu Kyi, but since she's under house arrest, who are some of the people, what are the names of certain leaders in the community that we should be watching out for or looking?
The crazy thing is that there are no leaders. It
Really?
is that is why like the people of Myanmar are saying we have never seen this before, and now like Myanmar used to be a very divided country where each religion was pretty divided against each other. Like even the old and the young,
Mm.
people didn't respect each other. You know, the old didn't respect the young didn't respect the old. But now there's a saying like Generation Z, right?
Hmm.
Like the people my age, 1996 to like 2003, something like that.
Yeah.
Like our creativeness and like our protests have actually gained respect from
Mm.
the elders. And for us young people, now we understand the pain the elders has went through.
Mm.
So that is what I mean by like the country is suddenly becoming united by through this event. And I would say like there is literally no leader right now. It is just a collaborative effort saying, so on the first week of protest, there was a lot of shortage of food. So a lot of people posted on Facebook, oh, uh, food is needed, food is needed. The next week there was a lot of food. So
Mm.
for the next week, people started saying, okay, there's too much food. It might actually be a waste. We need beautiful posters. So, and now because our nation's 90% a Theravada Buddhism nation, we are we are big on donations. We are the biggest donators in the whole world, actually.
Mm.
Like we're actually statistically by I don't know which source, but we are statistically like the most generous people on earth. Because as you know, the monks, the Theravada monks, can only eat food that is being donated, only
Right.
use things that are being donated. So donation is a big culture here. So
Mm.
like there's all sorts of donation. Do you want food? Do you want drinks on the protest? You don't have to bring anything. Everything is provided there by
Mm.
these different groups of people, and no one is leading them. So now this week there has been a lot of now uh this week the focus was posters. So now there's a lot of beautiful and bright posters being donated everywhere, being handed out. And now another thing is many of the youths, like the taxi bill, the Uber bill has been a little too much. So people has been asking for free rides, and now suddenly there are like cars. So it is very heartwarming, but very anxious. So in the morning, it's very heartwarming to see all these people being united, but at night we live in fear and in anxiety. So
Right.
uh, really a double-edged sword.
Right. Right. Now, I wanted to ask you, of course, we spoke about this already on our own, but I want to, for the sake of the viewer, I wanted to ask you to address just a little bit of um, the allegations of election fraud, particularly some of the, the, I guess we'd say, the amplification of this that's coming from certain conservative sources in the United States. And just to give the viewer a little background, um, I have some conservative friends here who were pro-Trump, who in the last 2 weeks have been claiming that that some of the companies that made the voting machines, and I'm talking about, I believe, Dominion and Smartmatic, some of the voting machines that were supposedly implicated in voter fraud here in the United States, that they actually showed up in Myanmar, and that Smartmatic and Dominion were partly responsible for the claimed election fraud in Myanmar. And I mean, I had done my own search on Google about this, and quickly found AP and Reuters and other news sources saying, debunking this immediately, that this was thoroughly false. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about that in your own understanding. Um, I mean, was there any election interference involving some of these voting machines from these other companies that that have been in the United States? What can you say about that?
I mean, the so the American conservative myth has already been debunked when they said voting machines.
Right.
Machine. What you think we can afford machines? We're already done there. We're already done. You
Yeah.
think we have machines? No, we check our letters with a stamp.
Yeah.
So then, that, what is manipulation? There is no manipulation. You stamp a ballot. There are options. You stamp you stamp your votes, and then you have to dip your ink. You have to dip your pinky into an electromagnetic ink, where it cannot be washed away for a week.
Uh-huh.
So there are already these what to say security in place, and also there's also what is called the Union of Electoral Commission. They have already denied that there is no discrepancies. But what the military, the junta's main accusation is that there are discrepancies between, like, how do you say, registered voter and number of voters. But the UEC has already explained this. This is due to COVID-19. Like a lot of people in Yangon, a lot of labor comes from the villages, the rural villages. The rural villages, and usually they would go back to their home village to vote, but because of COVID-19 restrictions, they had to vote in Yangon. So of course there's gonna be differences, but he couldn't make up anything else. So that is why he chose that. And you can see how desperate they are. They cannot find anything. Now, Aung San Suu Kyi has been filed with 2 charges. Number 1 is under the import-export law, because they found 4 walkie-talkies at her home. That's the first charge, and now a second charge has been added so that they can detain her longer. And that was under the natural disaster law. So basically, like, because she rallied with NLD, she broke the COVID-19 restriction. So you see how they have to charge with these bogus laws because they cannot find anything else. They have already searched through all of the NLD's headquarters, but they have found nothing. And that is why we also believe we are very close to winning, because the junta has nothing but violence as its plan. We believe they have nothing else. Like the civil disobedience movement is working. Them trying to instill us fear at night is not working. Everyday protests are still happening. So we believe, but then it is best not to be optimistic, I would say.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just so impressed with what your country, with what the protesters and the freedom fighters for democracy have been doing with so little resources. I'm impressed that you've been able to just sort of move the public to donate this and donate that without having clear-cut leaders. That's something I find that fascinating. because most movements have to have some leaders. You have to have some Martin Luther Kings, some Gandhis. Of course, I guess you have the Aung San Suu Kyi, but the people who are, but I mean, I guess at this point she's a figurehead. The people who are actually moving the movement are anonymous, and they're
Yes.
doing an incredible job.
Yeah, like in Hong Kong, in Thailand, like by this time a leader would have already been, pretty publicized and already been on the news. But we even as citizens, there is actually no leaders. It is all of us. Because the difference in America and other countries is that we are not a divided country against the military. Everyone hates the military. Everyone wants the NLD. So that is the only thing that we hope is different from other countries, because the whole country is fighting for one cause. There is no red and blue. There is no yellow and black as in Thailand. There is no pro China and pro democracy like in Hong Kong. It is we are one. We are like, yeah, we are one. That is why we say we are also very excited for the future. If we truly achieve a democratic government, then the potential has been raised, I would say.
Yeah. And I believe you will win. It's just a matter of time. And as you said, how many more people have to die before it happens? But I know you will win. Um, now, let me ask you, what is a typical day like for you? I know you said that you spend a lot of time protesting, but you have to do it during certain hours. You've talked a little bit about this, but if you can just give us a rundown of a typical day. What time of the day do you start? And
so, I mean, before the internet outages, I usually have to attend class from like 1 a.m. to 5 a.m.
right.
So, I mean, usually I will wake up like at 12 or like 1 p.m. But now I
Right.
wake up at like around 9 or 10 a.m. I start to protest at 11. So, I mean, but so I usually have two periods of protesting. The first period before lunchtime is donating, giving out water, giving out snacks. That is usually before lunch. And then after I have go my lunch, I usually go to the U.S. Embassy with the English signboards and start protesting. And then this ends around at maybe like at 4, around 4 p.m. And then I go home, shower, do, and I still gotta do some homework, right?
Yeah.
Do some homework. And at 8 p.m. now we have a ritual of banging pots and pans.
Right.
So at 8 p.m. we protest that way, spread some awareness, on Instagram, and then by 1 a.m. internet has been shut off. So now we just rest, but anxious. That has been
Yeah.
my daily schedule for 2 weeks now.
That's shocking. So, but you said that the internet gets shut off by 1 a.m. And
Yeah.
what time is your class with me in
Oh,
terms of your time?
your class. Oh, your class. It was actually from we have 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. So
Okay.
it's actually that's why I was able to attend your class on Wednesday.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I still try to attend classes, but I would say even doing homework is very inefficient right now. Like I would write 2 sentences and then like news is popping up. So oh my god, some violence is happening. Oh, and then basically 2 minutes of work and then 5 minutes of anxiety.
Well, I will always give you excuses or extenuating circumstances because I understand what you're going through, and I certainly want to support you in what you're doing. So you'll never have an argument from me on that.
Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, you're headed for an A in this class just by the kinds of things we're involved in right now, by raising awareness about this. Because this is on some level, this is related to our topic in class. We're talking about the confluence of different religions within a country, within a culture, how they interact with each other, how people understand each other, and how those religions are being wrongly utilized by a corrupt government to pit people against each other. So you're seeing this, you're seeing it in action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like actual manipulation using the religion as well. Yeah, I'm actually experiencing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also I would like to take my time to also like thank you, like because I'm really grateful to have this, at least any type of platform, any type of place to spread awareness, because I am truly grateful at this time where we are really desperate. And
Right.
yeah.
Well, it's my pleasure to help. You know, I know you were very polite towards me when you were asking about, you didn't want to bother me during the weekend, but this is what I live for. I live for trying to build bridges in the world, make peace, promote justice, and work towards interfaith dialogue. And this is obviously to do with building bridges and promoting justice. So, I mean, what better thing could I be involved in during my weekend than to help in some small way to get information out about this? So I'm honored that you would talk to me about this, that you would share this with me. So I this is the most, I don't know, it's the most fulfilling and enjoyable thing that I could do with my weekend, is to be part of this in some way. I wish I could do more. I wish I could be there with you right now, but I'll see what I can do about publicizing this.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank
it's so,
yeah.
is there anything else that you want to share a little bit about? We should probably try to wrap up for the sake of the viewers seeing a video that's not too long. Anything else
Yeah.
that you'd want to share about?
Um, I think that is about it. But just the fact that I just want to stress again, we need help right now, immediately. Uh, yeah, we it, like, I think if more people do die, blood is on a lot of people's hands, and that really should be avoided. That should at all points be avoided. So to stress about the situation right now is really important. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, it's very, very important, and I hope that we can help with that in some way. And I would suggest, if you're willing, let's even keep checking in on this from time to time. If I can raise awareness about this, then maybe, I don't know, maybe once every couple of weeks or something like that, we could have a follow-up, and you can talk about what things have changed, what has stayed the same. Maybe there are different needs that we might be able to help with. So if you're amenable to that, let's have a part 2 or a part 3.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
We
So
really hope something will shift, or like we will start to see an end game by like the next week, when the UN Security Council has held their meeting and our strikes keep on going.
right.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, let me just say a few things to the viewer in conclusion. So I would ask my conservative friends to refrain from reading Trump into this election. Um, Please see this as what it is, as described by my friend here: a corrupt military regime that has taken over a democratically elected government. There are a lot of brave people protesting in the streets, putting their very lives on the line for their democracy, and a corrupt regime is now killing people. This is, and I want to sort of phrase this very carefully in response to some of the things that we saw here in the January 6th protests in the United States. This is their 1776. All right, this is Myanmar's 1776, and we need to support them in their fight for democracy. No government is perfect. And I know that I, along with others, have criticized the administration of Aung San Suu Kyi in the past for ignoring the plight of the Rohingya in order to pacify and placate the military junta in order to avoid a complete takeover. And that is exactly what has happened, despite their attempts at appeasement. And in fact, it is the military junta that has carried out the ethnic cleansing. But the democratically elected civil government is the people's choice, and we need to support their freedom to vote. And what my student has suggested here is that if the military junta were not in a position of complete tyranny, maybe the Rohingya crisis may have been dealt with in a more peaceful way. So how do we help? Those of us who are here in the United States and abroad, well, every regime needs outside investments and international support. We need to reach out to our elected representatives, our congresspeople, our senators, our governors, and our new president, President Biden. We need to tell these officials to pay attention to what is happening in Myanmar, to condemn the military junta, to demand a return of the democratically elected government, and to ensure that we withhold any monetary or military aid to a regime that is not democratically elected. This is what we can do, and spread the word. Tell people about this video and others that are sharing the truth about what is going on in Myanmar. This should be a household word. Myanmar should be a household word. We cannot afford to ignore this. If anyone is unfree, then no one is free. So remember the hashtags, what's happening in Myanmar and hashtag save Myanmar. So anyway, Aung, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for what you're doing in Myanmar and for the world. You're showing the rest of the world that this can be done peacefully, and it can be done without weapons. And honestly, you're one of my heroes. I respect what you're doing, and I admire what you're doing. And if I were in a similar situation, I would only hope to be able to do half of what you're doing.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Sure.
It is truly an honor.
Okay. So I'm going to stop recording here, and I'm going to say goodnight to our viewers.